Your Opinion Stinks opens the conversation on a hot-button business topic.
And flips it on its head.
Hosted by a wellness coach
and a business coach.
We break down conventional business
while building entrepreneurs up for success. Who will you agree with?
Welcome to Your Opinion Stinks. I'm Tanisha.
And I'm Tim. Thank you as always for watching and listening. If you're on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and hit that alert button so you know when a new episode goes up. Because yes, we are putting out new stuff. On iTunes or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe and download it to your device so you can listen to it anywhere. And of course, we have our awesome group that we've started that we invite you to be a part of at Upliftpreneur. No. That's what it is. It's Upliftpreneur. It is at youropinionstinks.com/uplift.
Uplift.
UPLIFT.
I'd like it on the record that on the last episode I was correct. That he did not say uplift the first time.
And could not edit it out for the sake of the marriage.
For the sake of the marriage. Look, this is Your Opinion Stinks, and your opinion stank on the name of that link.
My opinion stinks. Your opinion stinks on having the audacity to defame me. Like if I do that to you.
How dare you?
I am a stand-up. It's already been aired. I don't care now.
I'll edit it.
No, it's all right.
I love you.
It's all right. Thank you, guys.
I was just being a cut up.
Yeah, wanted to make an example. That's what that was. I can recognize those things.
Okay, well, I just wanted my honor made whole.
Can we do this thing? People don't want to see us argue or argue, whatever this is.
Or do they?
Let us know in the comments.
Let us know in the comments. So today's episode is about leadership. Are you a leader? Are you a leader out there? Do you think you're a leader? Do your vendors and clients and customers and people you work with think you're a leader? I don't know.
I won't put you on blast.
J'accuse.
As the leader of this show, I haven't seen a monocle.
I know.
I haven't seen a teachable moment.
A teachable moment. With the boom, 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 boom.
The mechanics of our show is falling apart because it's now season 2 and things are just not getting done.
Look, things are busy right now. There are a lot of things happening behind the scenes.
And that's what we're talking about with leadership.
And my leadership required me to prioritize putting a show out on time instead of focusing on monocles and
opera glasses and top hats
and
teachable moments.
I stand by that decision. It was necessary. It may be necessary again this week.
Executive decision.
I made an executive decision, and I'm proud of it.
I can't even talk about the firing part.
Oh.
Was it fish rots at the head?
Oh, see, I don't think we'll get to that today. I think this will be at least a 2-part episode. And this will probably be a topic we come to again at later times because, I mean, there's so much about leadership.
Yeah.
To talk about, to debate, so much has been written, and it's because I think it's just a challenging thing. We're not taught to be leaders in elementary school, at least not as a part
we're
of
taught
the
to be workers.
Required curriculum. Yeah. Yes, we're taught to be workers, not leaders.
Yeah, bees.
So I think it's worth spending time on, and I think there's so much out there because there's so much interest in it.
Absolutely.
So I wanted us to have a debate about leadership, but as we talked about before the show, I wanted to I need to figure out the bones of the episode. What are we going to talk about as a starting point? And I went to the YouTubes, and I did a search on something like what makes a good leader or something like that. And I was curious, not that YouTube is in charge of what is most accurate. But I was curious about what video got the most hits on that search term.
From that term.
Yes. And it was a video that received millions and millions and millions of views from Simon Sinek.
The author of Start With Why.
5 different
Leaders
books.
Eat Last.
Oh, I don't remember.
I can't remember. the
We'll
rest.
link to his Wikipedia profile. But
I'm curious
you
as we're
can.
doing
Oh,
it.
you
So
look
go
it
ahead.
up. Okay. And his video from 2010, 2009, 2010.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Somewhere around there.
His video from 2010, it was a TED Talk. And it's so funny for those of you who watch TED Talks. If you don't watch TED Talks, I highly recommend it. They are fantastic.
Yep.
But this was only 9 years ago.
It
And
looks like it's so
It looks like it's from the
old.
1950s with color
Not
added.
it's not that bad.
No.
But it looks like early Seinfeld.
Yeah. Get out of my head. If you go to the first episode of Seinfeld, it looks all old and weird.
Yeah.
It looks like that.
Yeah, it looks like you're watching like My Two Dads.
Yes.
Because it was all recorded on Betamax or VHS. And they couldn't upscale it to HD. Yeah. It looks dated.
And most of the shot is from waist up, and he's got what are those whiteboards? Not a whiteboard that you use the markers with, but it's the pads, the paper pads. And it's from Office Depot. There are no screens in the back or anything. No, it's an Office Depot board that he's drawn on with a blue marker. And the sound is terrible. They had to change out the mic in the middle of it.
It probably ran out of batteries. Can't stand you non-technical people.
However, I still encourage every person listening to this to go to youropinionstinks.com and find episode 2 from season 2 and find the link in the show notes for this TED Talk because it holds up and is
really
fantastic.
Yeah, it's one of the ones that kind of set the bar as to what a TED Talk is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's
it's very
charismatic.
good.
It's full of content. It's relatively short.
And a lot of internet marketers have ripped him off.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
He seems like an OG in leadership.
He's an OG in
a lot of things.
Process thinking and stuff like that. Yeah. Oh,
really
real quick.
Cool. Go ahead.
Find Your Why, which is the part 2, I believe, of Start With Why. So Start With Why is the first one. Then Leaders Eat Last, which I knew about. I think it's only really 3 books.
No, I think it's 5.
Let's see. Start With Why.
If you go to Wikipedia.
Leaders Eat Last. Find Your Why. Together is Better. You're right. And then The Infinite Game.
The Infinite Game is the newest.
Yeah. I haven't even seen this one, so this has to be October 2019. So it's coming.
Oh, it's coming. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So at the time of us doing this show,
it's
The Infinite Game is on its way.
Yeah. So just a really brief little couple of points from his TED Talk.
Mm-hmm.
He talks about the golden circle, and there's 3 circles, and at the middle, if you can imagine in your mind's eye, in the middle there's a little bubble, and it says the word why. And the next circle is a little bigger around that first circle. It says how. And then there's a bigger circle around those 2 circles. It says what. All right.
I'm not doing this.
So he talks about how most organizations, particularly ones that are trying to sell you a product, they start with that outermost circle that you can see the clearest, the what.
Yeah.
So we're going to try to sell you this thingamajibbit, and it does this, and this, and that's why you want it. And hey, how much you going to pay? It's $20. How many you want? And and he says, that's not the way to do it. The way to do it is to start with the why in the middle and work your way out.
Mm-hmm.
And he uses Apple as the epitome of that.
One of the bigger
One
examples.
Great example of that. Because they're not saying, hey, you want to buy this really cool computer? It doesn't get viruses. that's not, that's not, which is, I mean, compelling on its own.
Yeah.
But what's even more compelling is, hey, our why is in everything we do, we believe that the products you buy from us that the things you want in your home are beautiful and functional, and like he's saying it so much. He said it so much better than I am.
I want to throw something at you.
Yeah.
Curveball. Do you know how Apple sold the iPod?
I don't know. I don't think so.
All right. So with everything that Apple does, they have their why completely embedded into it. They weren't the first ones to make iPods. I mean, to make MP3 players.
Okay.
But because of their why, of them having beauty and function together.
Beauty and function together, yes.
And their catchphrase for that one was like 10,000 songs in your pocket. So they made it relative so people can understand what it really is. Because everyone's talking about gigabytes and how much storage and all this technical stuff. But Steve Jobs and Apple found ways to convey very complex thoughts into very simple terms that everyone can understand, backed by their why.
Yeah.
And that's probably carried on through everything that Apple's done.
Yeah, you said that so much better than I did. I might even cut out what I said. But yes, that's it. And he kept saying throughout the presentation, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it, over and over again. And he says the goal is not to do business with people who want what you have. The goal is to do business with people who believe what you believe. And I find that a compelling thing.
I don't completely agree with it.
Oh, what? Why don't you agree with that?
Completely, I don't completely agree with it.
Where's the disconnect?
So, I believe that there's a customer for every every product or service. No. I think there's a person that can buy anything for everything.
No, there's a famous example of why that in and of itself is not true. And I'm sure you know it once I say it.
Go for
The
it.
yoga mat.
People buy yoga mats.
No, that thick luxury yoga mat. You never heard that story?
No.
Basically, this guy spent all this money developing this product that was this thick, extra comfortable yoga mat.
Okay.
He built the website. He built the prototypes. It was amazing. Everybody said, oh, that sounds awesome. Nobody bought it because nobody wanted that.
Okay, here's where I would challenge that. Is it that no one that he was able to reach wanted it, or he didn't do enough to find the person that was perfect for that product? There's somebody.
Product.
Okay, here you go.
Okay, but if that number of people is 6,
hey, then that means you charge a lot of money for it.
So he's gonna charge $400.
It's a luxury. It's a luxury mat. Okay, here you go.
I'm having a lot of trouble.
Do you have a car? Do you know someone that has a car? You probably do. All right. You have a vehicle.
I do have a vehicle.
And I have a vehicle.
Yes, you do.
They don't look the same.
No, they don't.
Then definitely not the same size.
No, they're not.
But they have 4
Mine's
wheels.
bigger. It's awesome.
They have 4 wheels.
They do. Each have 4 wheels. And
most of the time, if you put it in drive, they move forward.
Yes.
And then if you put it in reverse, they move backwards.
Yes.
So the mechanics of a car are the same, even though the design
is different. For the most part, even though mine is a hybrid, but okay.
But it's a car. It's a vehicle nonetheless.
Okay.
Okay. So why do we have so many different types of vehicles when every single vehicle does it's the whole Henry Ford thing, right?
That's not because there's a buyer for every vehicle. It's because we build too many cars.
No.
And we keep wanting the new great thing.
It's because there's someone who has the money that wants to buy a Maserati versus the person who doesn't have much money and just needs to find any vehicle within a budget to get them moving forward or backwards. There's a customer for everything.
Okay. I think we may need to debate. I'm going to write this down. There is customer for everything because
let her know.
That's not
Let her know.
that's
all I
what we're
gotta
debating
say.
today.
Well, yeah, we'll get back into the whole thing leadership. Okay, so that was just my little discourse on that.
That'll be another episode because
Yeah.
I stand by it. That does not.
I'm sorry,
right.
people bought pet rocks.
That's because we're crazy. It's not because if you made a pet paperclip that everybody would buy the pet paperclip. People buy
molded plastic.
Okay, we'll debate that another day. Oh, here, but that's Spider-Man.
Molded plastic.
It's Spider-Man. People are buying Spider-Man.
Molded plastic.
Okay. Yeah, but okay, if this molded plastic wasn't Mario, but was instead just a big blob that doesn't look like anything and was this puke green color and didn't even have a face, people would buy that?
Somebody might.
Okay, see, no, we're going to have to debate.
There's people on eBay buying Jesus toast.
But that's Jesus toast. It's Jesus because they love Jesus and they want Jesus on toast. They don't want a puke green blob of plastic with no face.
I derailed this conversation. I apologize. Yes. So leadership.
So, okay.
All right.
Let us return to the original topic.
Sorry about that.
Leadership.
My bad.
So, the leader of Apple, who was featured prominently in Simon Sinek's example.
Yep.
Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs.
Now, Steve Jobs is a figure who is controversial.
Very much so.
He has had multiple movies made about him and documentaries.
If you haven't watched The Pirates of Silicon Valley, highly recommend it. It's a great business movie.
But are you able to give a brief synopsis of why he is such a controversial leader?
Sure, absolutely. So, Steve Jobs, the visionary behind Apple, teamed up with Steve Wozniak, who was pretty much the brains of Apple. One of the things that they wanted to achieve was beating Big Brother, which was IBM.
Yeah.
They felt that that Big Brother had no place in the world of creatives and definitely ruled with an iron fist. And they wanted to change culture. The way Steve went about doing it was pretty much ruthless. Like he knew what he wanted. He knew how important it was to him and forced all of that onto his employees, his board, anyone and everyone, including at the time Bill Gates.
Yeah.
Again, y'all need to watch The Pirates of Silicon Valley. It's so good. Overall, though, Steve had he had a tremendous sense of what he envisioned his business to be, but in his style of leadership, he led with fear. Yeah. And while a lot of things were accomplished, I mean, the Apple II, the Lisa, the first version of the Macintosh, which pretty much like revolutionized computers and bringing that whole style of Mona Lisa into technology. There was many people that had infighting because I remember one scene, they had a fight for two different teams, like the Apple I and the Apple II team, or the Apple II and the Lisa team. I can't remember, but there was infighting inside of Apple from the development teams, and he loved it because it was chaos.
Yeah, it's better, bigger, better, faster, better.
It inspired artists.
Right.
In his eyes.
Right.
In actuality, it was really hurting morale and people were getting
really
ill.
Toxic.
When they fired him, after they brought in the Pepsi guy, Apple kind of lost its way and they had to bring him back. But in that still, that leadership is what drove Apple to become what Apple is today. Like the second coming of Steve Jobs, he learned how to be a visionary without being the man pushing the buttons.
Yeah.
Not because he had to, but because he was forced to.
So Steve Jobs is held up as an amazing leader.
He is held up as a genius.
As a genius, yes.
Yeah.
But when people are trying to cultivate the kind of boss they are going to be, Steve Jobs is a common person to look to.
Oh, a lot of people use him as a figurehead of how you imagine a business.
Right.
Yeah.
So the question becomes, should we hold him up as a successful leader? What makes a successful leader? Because if, like, the company is undeniably successful. Don't know how long it'll last.
It's had its highs and lows and highs.
It's had its highs and lows, but
Yeah.
it has changed. It's revolutionized how we listen to music, how we work
how we
with
purchase
computers,
music.
how we purchase music, all of that. It is a part
It's
of
culture.
our time.
It is culture.
It's a part of our culture. It is a successful company. The leadership, does that inevitably mean that the leadership, in particular Steve Jobs, was also successful? Doesn't the health, emotional, physical, otherwise, of the employees of an organization matter?
It's funny because when you think of a lot of the great leaders in the past, there's been many a great leader that has rubbed their subordinates the wrong way.
Sure.
Because unfortunately, you got to motivate somehow, and you have to agitate somehow.
Well,
So it then comes down to style. It's like, do you
There's styles of
give
it, yes.
carrots or you give sticks? Which is also a really great book too. Carrots versus sticks, I think is what it's called. I can't remember. But the whole thing is, there's a certain style that goes with the culture of a business that then kind of, leads the way as to how things are going to work. Like, there's a few businesses, I'm not going to name any names on this, where their leadership completely killed everything.
yeah.
While there's some where their leadership has completely inspired and revolutionized things. But in any instance, as far as Steve Jobs goes, is he someone that you hold in high regard? I think there's things you can pull from him,
Yeah.
but definitely not like 100% you build your business the way Steve Jobs did. It's a different time.
Yes.
People are different. I mean, the biggest thing that we're seeing, like a lot of people complain about, which is now a very good industry for you entrepreneurs, is the whole thing of communication in generations. Because someone who was a baby boomer then, that's now a bigger, older baby boomer now, might take more crap
No, yeah.
than a Gen Xer or a Gen Yer or definitely a millennial.
Today's employee will probably not take that crap.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. There'll be lawsuits at the yin yang. I mean, a hashtag could kill a person's career like that.
Yes, especially in Silicon Valley.
Oh, yeah.
When the atmosphere is we're so open and democratic, and let's talk about things and not have conflict. You guys want a nap nook?
No. And if we were to go back in time to when
Yeah.
Apple was just two guys in a garage,
Yeah,
no one's
that
gonna-
would.
they're not offering anything like that.
Oh,
So that's what I say with the whole thing.
the
with
benefit
leadership
is
now.
this check.
Yeah, you got paid this week, and we didn't go over budget. You got paid. No, so
So I hear you saying we can take parts.
I believe so.
It's not all or nothing, and that is a very attractive approach to me because there are very few things, if any, that are all or nothing.
Yeah,
So
like I'll throw this
I
real
like
quick.
that. Yeah.
Just kind of pulling this in there. We kind of talked about it as we were trying to build out the show. This is the way I kind of look at it, and if I can find the reference for it, then I'll give it to you to add to the show notes. Was what is a CEO and what is a COO?
That's right. You brought this up.
Yeah. And the way this person explained it, which I totally now accept, is that a CEO is a visionary and a COO is a manager. I'm saying it a little bit more harsh than it is, but something along those lines.
That COO is in charge of operations.
They are systems.
They're the ones making sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to do, but
Yep.
the CEO is the visionary.
Yeah, they're the figurehead, the one that sees where the business is going and makes decisions pretty much as the captain of the ship. I think of Steve Jobs as the captain of Apple.
Visionary.
Like, he saw that technology was on the rise. Everyone's coming out with a computer, but they all look beige. They all have this funny thing called a mouse that is beige and blocky and doesn't feel good to the hand. Why do we need 2 buttons? We should only use 1. They saw that, colors was a thing that we reacted to. So we needed to have colors. We needed to be simple. And in that, it drove to, there's one here. There's an iPad over there. There's a few other.
Certainly worked in this household, didn't it?
So
we appling it up.
That's a visionary. When it came to actually putting all this together, they had their management team, their operations team, their, all this other people, but they had to follow the vision. And that's where I think we kind of have to focus as to what leadership really is.
I take that, but leadership, first of all, not every business has the luxury of separating out those roles.
Absolutely.
And I think for probably most of the people listening, it's a small business, and the leader who needs to be most concerned about being a good leader is both of those roles. Like, I'm in charge of operations, and the thing that I think is really important, it's not just enough to be a visionary. You're setting the tone for the organization.
Absolutely.
And I guess I'm having a little trouble, and maybe by the next episode we will figure out how to really conceptualize this, because I'm not sure I'm ready to just buy into any one person's definition of what a good leader is. I didn't even look it up. I just wanted us to have a sort of preliminary discussion of what this is, and hear from you guys out there what you think it is. But it's just, I'm uncomfortable with the idea of separating out a person's vision from how they function and the tone they're setting, how they communicate.
Why can't there be separation?
I'm not saying there can't be separation, but if we're going to talk about absolutes, like what makes a good leader, I'm uncomfortable not including something that it can't just be about vision to be a good leader. That's not. When I think of the best leaders I've worked with, it wasn't because they had a good vision. Vision was part of it.
I'm not saying that is the only factor.
So what are the other factors?
But that is the factor that matters the most.
Okay, well, I'm not sure, but what's another factor then?
Well, I'm not so sure that I can get that you don't see that. Like, name any business that's ever been successful where the person hasn't had vision as a key factor.
I'm saying vision should. I'll
give you a good example.
It should be a part of it. It just can't be all of it.
Ray Kroc. Okay, I'm sorry if this is going to come out the way it's going to sound, but it's going to sound pretty bad. Ray Kroc stole McDonald's. Okay?
Okay.
He stole McDonald's. But
thief.
The McDonald's brothers, or McDowell brothers. No, that's Coming to America.
The Eddie Murphy movie Coming to America.
They have the Big Mac. We have the Big Mick. So the McDonald's brothers had a vision.
I know.
And their vision was, we're going to have this one stop here, and this is what we're going to do. Ray Kroc comes in, sees the operation, sees the mechanics, and is like, oh my goodness, this needs to be everywhere. And, please look at that movie too. It's another good business movie. I can't think of the name of it right now, but Batman is in it. Michael Keaton is in it.
Thievery.
But the whole thing of Ray Kroc was he saw beyond what the McDonald's brothers were able to see, and this being something that could be replicated and moved across the U.S.
Yeah.
That's a visionary. Now,
Sure.
is that to say that other things in play didn't come together, like financing and budgeting and hiring and firing and all those things come together? But if there's no vision, there's nowhere to go.
Sure.
And that's great leadership right there.
Okay.
Like everything else is a skill set, but you there are no skill sets for vision. You got to have a sense of imagination for that. I mean, even in the book,
imagination can be cultivated.
Even in the book that we're reading, Mastery.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think you gotten that far yet, but there's parts of it that talk about having a childlike curiosity, so you can expand your mind beyond your limitations. That was Ray Kroc. That was Steve Jobs. That was Walt Disney. And that makes me feel uncomfortable to say Walt Disney, but Walt Disney. That was Kanye West. No. He's an artist. No. But no, I think that's...
I'm not against including vision and what it takes to be a good leader. I fully accept including that in the definition. But what else? Are you saying that's all it takes? Because it doesn't sound like that's what you're saying.
I'm saying yes.
That's all it takes.
Because
it doesn't take
here,
being able to execute conflict resolution.
No, here's the
or
thing.
being able to motivate
here's the
people.
Thing. Let's go for the world of...
You can talk vision all you want, but if I'm not resonating with it...
then bye. Isn't that what Simon Sinek says? That people will buy what you stand behind first?
Yes, but the best leader will be able to see in someone like, okay, yeah, you may not immediately resonate with it, but I see in you that there probably is an interest there and you would be great for the cause. Let me communicate in a way that will inspire you to become a part of this why.
To be my minion.
No, to become a part of this why. And if I am a good communicator, if I am a good motivator, then perhaps I can bring out in someone something that maybe that person didn't have a natural affinity for it, but then, like, oh wow, yeah, you're right. That is my connection to it. I'm okay. But like I said, you can't
like
why can that not be the CEO?
In the vein of if it was a solopreneur or someone who has a small business, you're fulfilling two roles until either someone comes in and takes that responsibility off your plate,
I'm having a lot of trouble with this.
You just run multiple hats.
I'm uncomfortable with those being two separate hats. It's a fancy hat. A leader has a fancy hat.
Okay. So
it's a top hat and a monocle.
So why in Are You Being Served? They made a big to-do about the position you were in and the hat that you wore.
The British comedy Are You Being Served?
Yes.
In the British comedy Are You Being Served?
Took some aspects of whatever was real life at that time.
The British comedy Are You Being Served is a fantastic example of leadership. We won't go into it deeply because I don't think it would be very interesting to everyone involved, everyone listening. However, you had the person who was at the tippy top, who I think is the person we're talking about when we're talking about Steve Jobs, when we're talking about people listening to this, running their businesses, talking about the tippy top. And the tippy top was young Mr. Grace.
Yeah.
And young Mr. Grace was a mess. And therefore the store was a mess. The store had its heyday, but then he came in not knowing a whole heck of a lot about retail and just thinking he'd have these random ideas and just not knowing what he was doing, but just caught up in the grandeur and the liquor cabinet and the going home early and having the yacht of being the person in charge, owning the store, and telling everybody what to do. And partly because of that faulty leadership, everything under that crumbled and hilarity ensued.
So can we say that his leadership was not good?
He had a whole heck of a lot of vision, but that vision was not enough to keep that store afloat. And they almost got sold like 3 different times. They were losing money every season.
So there you go. Bad vision.
There you go. Takes more than vision. I told you he had a heck of a lot of it. He had vision.
Yeah, and the vision wasn't good.
Okay. No, the vision was not supplemented by strategy and conflict resolution.
He had people for strategy,
good
and
management
they weren't good.
skills.
He had the dude with the nose. Or the ears.
Yeah,
the
but
ears.
he was just as bad. That's why we can't get into it, because both Mr. Rumbold and Captain Peacock were also terrible leaders. Therefore, funny.
And I proved my point.
No? Okay. You know what? We're going to leave it there. We'll
come back to this.
So how do we resolve this? How do we move forward
right
and
now?
resolve this? No, for next week. How will we settle on, if we even can, settle on a definition of what a good leader is?
How about you and I, since there's going to be some time.
Yeah.
You come up with yours. I'll come up with mine. We won't see it.
We won't show each other.
And when we come back in front of this camera,
that's a lot of pressure. Okay, with the caveat that whatever I come up with, maybe I can be moved on something, or maybe I can learn about something later.
And same thing for me.
Perhaps not the end all be all, but we'll come with our working definitions.
Yeah, and then we'll put it out for all of you guys to say whose opinion is best.
Oh, I thought you were pointing at yourself, because you're going to say whose opinion stinks.
Whose opinion is best.
Good pointing at yourself.
And whose
that it stinks.
Just for those that are listening on iTunes or anywhere you listen to podcasts, the stinky part I was pointing at Tunisia. The one that was best I was pointing at myself. But those of you that are watching, you saw. So it's all good.
Lies. Okay. That's what we'll do.
So TBC?
Yes, TBC. And we will actually extend the Steve Jobs question into another CEO who is inspired by Steve Jobs, perhaps in more ways than one, and will be another interesting deep dive into, can you call this person successful even though their company is very successful? Are they a good leader?
Yeah. Or did they just luck into something?
Yeah. Is it happening despite them rather than because of them?
Because of them, yeah. I could dig it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So tune in next Tuesday for season 2, episode 3.
So is that supposed to be my lead-in?
Sure.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for watching and listening. On YouTube, don't forget to subscribe, hit that alert button, so that way you get notified of whenever we do something new and cool. iTunes or anywhere you listen to podcasts, subscribe, and hit that alert button. I'm sorry, not alert button, to download the joint, so that way you have it in your device. Sorry, little DC came out. And
you're funny.
And don't forget to join our group, where you not just see and hear all the good stuff from Your Opinion Stinks, but also all the other stuff that we do, community stuff that we do, and our sister show, Soul Kick Show. and all that at youropinionstinks.com/uplift. UPLIFT. I am Tim.
I'm Tanisha, and remember, opinions are not facts. Do your research and have fun in the fight. Bye-bye.